Alright, this is Lucidity with Lucid Terror, bringing you 5.2 Retribution Paladins for PvE. I mean, you could basically use most of this for PvP too, but I'm just going to go into like talents, glyphs, forging, and gems, enchants, and basically the single target and AoE rotations. It's not very complicated, and I'll go into the set bonuses too, and I'll try to go into a short piece about add-ons, but I guess we'll start with talents. The good thing about the Mist of Pandaria talent system is it's a little bit less having to pick essential talents in a big tree rather than this way you pick 6 essential talents that all have different uses in different ways, and I mean, it's pretty nice. I mean, you can change it from pull to pull. If you know you're going to be doing a single target fight with a lot of movement, then you'll pick certain glyphs over others, or certain talents over others, and for AoEs you'll pick different ones, and it just all depends. But the ones I like to take for the most part are Long Arm of the Law, because you use Judgment a lot. You get the movement speed increase for 3 seconds, so it's a pretty good uptime on that. I like Fist of Justice because you're not going to be really repenting much in a raid environment, at least. Fist of Justice is kind of like an improved Hammer of Justice. It's longer range, and the cooldown is less. It's, I think, goes from a minute to 30 seconds, and it stuns for 6 seconds, so I like that. As you can try Repentance or Burden of Guilt if you feel like using slows, or just seeing them the old way like that. Selfless Healer is good for Retributions right now because they've increased the healing on it by quite a bit. If you use Judgments enough, you'll get Selfless Healer, basically a buff that it stacks on itself. You just, after 3 stacks, it's pretty much an instant cast heal. It does improved effectiveness. I think it's 60% at 3 stacks, and if you use it on a target, I think it heals for more. That's supposed to be, I believe, how it works. So Eternal Flame is just putting kind of like a shield on yourself with every time you use a Word of Glory. That's pretty decent, but it's not the best one. And Sacred Shield is just a straight up shield that absorbs a set amount of damage every few seconds. And Clemency is like the #1 for me, like, cause the best thing about Paladins is their versatility. Using like Hands of Sacrifice on a tank that's about to be taking a bunch of burst damage will definitely help. Hands of Protection on spellcasters if they're going to have something that's really going to hurt them with physical damage most of the time, so that's pretty good for that. And you can use it twice before you incur the cooldown. So this has a 2-minute cooldown. You can use it once every minute basically, and you'll never be on CD. Sanctified Wrath is really good because in this tier we got the tier 14 bonus for free. Basically our Sanctified Wrath is going to be off of our Avenging Wrath, and it's in 2-minute cooldown, so that's really good. Holy Avenger and Divine Purpose, there may be fights where it might be better and might be worse, but this for the most part is going to be your best one. And then Holy Prism is what I'm using right now, is because I had just done an AoE type fight where the mobs moved a lot. I was on Tordos, and that's why I was using Holy Prism, but I'll explain that in a second. Light's Hammer is really good for AoE if you know the mobs are going to stay in a specific spot and you get to use it every minute. Execution Sentence is your 1-minute single target ability. It's the best one if you're just going to be fighting one person, but Holy Prism is 20 seconds. It does healing and it does damage, so if you just need a quick bursty AoE hit or for healing or damage, it's really good for that. That's pretty much all you need. All you need to do to change it between every fight is Tomes with a Clear Mind. I use quite a bit of them, so I try to keep a few stacks handy. I'm kind of low right now. I'll go into Glyphs now. Glyphs, for the most part, I mean, there's not a glyph that's really just gonna like completely increase your damage to the point to where one's way better than the other, but ones that I like to try to use as often as possible is for my majors is Glyph of Double Jeopardy, especially if you switch targets a lot. Every time you use a Judgment on another mob, it increases the damage by 20%, but only if you use it on a different second target. So switch between targets. It also puts sensor stacks on your targets, which I'll go into sensor stacking on the AoE portion of this, but it's pretty simple to do, and it's really effective if you know to do it correctly. Another thing I like to use for AoE at least is mass exorcism. It reduces the range of your exorcism, which kind of stinks, but to melee range, but it causes 25% of the damage to go to all enemies within 8 yards. And I don't think there's a limit on that. If it is, it'd probably be like 10, but I don't think there's a limit. So if you just have a bunch of mobs in a good tight package area, you use mass exorcism, it's going to hit all of those people. And I believe with the new tier 15 but 2-piece bonus, that'll cause the extra holy damage to like 6% for I think 6 seconds. So that's going to be really good, I believe, for AoE at some point, especially once you get 4-piece. Templar's Verdict, it's really just kind of a little mini damage reduction for yourself, and the uptime on it's pretty good because you're hitting Templar's Verdict all the time. I mean, for single target, and I know it's going to be a single target, I try to help my survivability and take off max exorcism and use Avenging Wrath instead. That's really the only thing I really change. There's a few other things you can try, like Glyph of Harsh Words if you felt like it, if you want to use your Words of Glory for it, especially if you're going to be out of range a lot. That'd be good for that. And that's pretty much it for Glyphs. All the other ones, the minor Glyphs, it's just whatever you want to have. Bladed Judgments, and I do like Righteous Retreat where you can bubble hearth. I mean, that's always kind of fun. Beyond that, it's pretty easy. I guess at this point I should probably go into the gemming, enchanting, and reforging. For reforging, gemming, and enchanting, the main things that you really need to focus on is making sure that you get hit capped to 7.50. Try not to go way over that if you can help it, and expertise capped at 7.50. Those are really the main things that you need to focus on. And once you get to a certain amount of gear, that's not even going to be an issue. So at that point, you'd really want to just focus on getting as much haste as you can, and then mastery, then crit. The reason why you want haste is because it increases the or decreases the cooldowns on Crusader Strike, Judgments, Exorcisms, and Hammers of the Righteous, basically your main abilities. So it definitely helps to build up your holy power so you can use Templar's Verdicts and Divine Storms a lot more quickly that way. Just enchant for as much haste, use the socket bonuses to get the bonuses if they help you quite a bit, like 180 strength. I mean, strength's always going to be your #1 stat after hit and expertise cap, which that's really not too big of an issue, but haste is pretty close to getting where it's better than strength, and I'm pretty sure it actually might be. So after that, you could just strength haste, haste gems, haste and hit, which are lightning wild jades for the green, quick sun radiance for the haste, and fierce what is that called again? Fierce vermilion onyx. Those are mainly what you're going to be using, if not all the time. That's what you'll be using to gem and enchant. You're not going to really gem for straight strength. You always want to kind of double up, get some haste in there too. That's really it, the enchanting. Just make sure that you enchant all your gear and get the strength on your gloves, strength on your wrist. I mean, as much as you can. I'll always go with the Pandaren step for my feet because of the minor speed increase, and plus mastery is not bad. So that's pretty much it for gemming and enchanting. You can always look that up on things like Noxic and Icy Veins, places like that. You can use Ask Mr. Robot to help you reforge your stuff, actually find gear for you. It's actually a pretty decent website. If you're a premium member, you actually get a few more perks, which is it's nice. I'm actually a member, so I try to find things that way, and you should probably try it out. We'll go ahead and go into the single target, and then I'll do AoE, then I'll do add-ons, and that'll be it. Now, single target damage is not really a rotation, more of it's a priority system, and it's been like that for a long time, and nothing's really changed in terms of that. What has changed is how some of the abilities gain you holy power when you can use the holy power. How much holy power you have, which has been that way since Myth started, but for some folks who are maybe new to Ret, might not know about that quite yet. It's our resource system on top of mana. So, something I like to use, so I don't have to really think about it as much, is an add-on called CLC Ret. It does tell you when a ability is off cooldown, and it gives you a priority system on when you should use certain abilities. Now there will be times when the add-on's wrong, especially for AoE. It doesn't really give you AoE rotation. I'll go into that in the AoE portion, but for the most part you can use this pretty much all the time and it will lead you in the right direction. Now you may have to add abilities like say you want to use Holy Prism in the rotation off cooldown. You're going to have to change the priority system, which you can do in CLC Ret. So that's just something you'd have to look up yourself, and it's not too complicated. I may make a separate video on how to use the add-on properly, but it's really not that hard to make up a new priority list for yourself. So I'll go ahead and I've already buffed myself as much as I can. I use a flask and I fed myself with the good food, black pepper, ribs, and shrimp. So I always like to try to buff myself up as much as I can before I do anything. And main thing, engineers have one good thing for melee, which I've always liked. Well, any class can use it, but I think it's best for melee, at least for me at least. You can use this on your gloves. It's a 1 minute cooldown, but it's up for 10 seconds. It increases your strength by 1920, so it's always good. Now, I would go into the bonuses real quick. This is the tier 14 bonus, which I'm still using because I don't have 4-piece tier 15 yet, but increases your damage by 15%, which we should all know by now. And then the new stuff is 2-piece. Your exorcism causes your target to take 6% increased holy damage from your attacks for 6 seconds. So using exorcism when it's only on a, let's see, less than 12-second cooldown, half the uptime. If you get a Art of War proc, it will be another exorcism, so your uptime's probably going to be more than 50%, which is not bad. So all you really want to do is just follow what the CLC Ret will tell you. You're always going to want to build up Crusader Strikes and Judgments to get your holy powers up, and exorcisms off cooldown, and then use Templar's Verdict. That'll pretty much take care of that. For like Guardian of Ancient Kings, you usually want to use that on when you really want to burst, and use it with Avenging Wrath and Potion. That's usually if you're going to pre-pot and use all that at the same time. Like everybody Lust, you're just going to do insane numbers, so it really will help. Let's see if there's anything else that you really have to know for single target. Not really. I might go into a little bit of survivability just real quick. Divine Protection damage from magical damage is decreased. Devotion Aura really can save a raid. I've seen it happen a lot, but you can read these tooltips yourself and see. Like I said earlier, Hands of Sacrifice and Hands of Protection are always really good. And your Hands of Freedom to get you out of effects if you need to, and your stuns, stuff like that. Really easy. That's pretty much it. And your Arcane Torrents will silence people and interrupt cast. So pretty nice that way. I'm just going to go ahead and get into the single target portion of this fight, and you always want to try to fight them from behind. And I always pre-pot hit my Guardian and my Avenging Wrath. You can see my damage meters right here. I'll do this probably till about 10 million or so, and then I'll just call it quits after that, because you get the general idea. Alright, so I'm going to pre-pot, hit my Guardian, Avenging Wrath, and just go into the rotation. You just follow the add-on, and your Inquisition, also very important to keep up 100% of the time, because it increases your holy damage by 30%. So hammers, exorcisms, you see that it puts a little exorcism debuff on them where it increases your holy damage. So right now I'm at about 190k right now. It's not my best run through the dummy. I've actually broken 200 quite often. but again, crit comes into that a little bit, and you'll see. And also have a trinket where I become a Zandalari troll, so that increases my strength by quite a bit for a few seconds, and you just keep this going. One bad thing about Retribution is we're super godlike bursty initially, and then we do kind of lose our luster until we gain our cooldowns back. Now my gloves are about to come off cooldown, so I'm going to go ahead and use those again. I have that on a macro where I can just click my middle mouse wheel in, and it'll start that all up over again. So macros are also very important. If you can learn how to put like Avenging Wrath and a trinket, like an unused trinket together, that would help. So that's something that you might want to try. I'm almost at 10 million now, so that's pretty much it. It was about 120 before I quit, so it's like 117. It's not too bad. I mean, it could be worse, it could be better, but another thing you'll see is Censor. That's why you always want to use Seal of Truth, because it puts a dot on your target. And I'll go into something called sensor stacking into the next video that I'm about to do on AoE. So we'll go ahead and go into that for now. Now I decided to come to Orgrimmar because I really didn't feel like waiting for an LFR to do this or go find a bunch of mobs to stack up. These are a bunch of target dummies that are fairly close together. I'm doing that just to make my life a little easier so I don't have to really move around as much and just feeling lazy. So AoE really easy for the most part. It's the only thing that you're going to want to change, if you haven't already changed it, is to go into Mass Exorcism, because when you do a Mass Exorcism it throws it out to 3 people. At least if they're close, it'll do it to everybody, but they'll get this little dot on them, or debuff, and it really does help. So you'll see right here, like I do it here, and they're on there, and they're on there. Next small thing you want to know how to do is to do something called sensor stacking. Is anytime you do a melee attack, you'll get stacks of sensor, and judgments will give you stacks of sensor. And once you get up to 5 stacks, you want to switch to another target. And this is where that glyph of double jeopardy comes into play, because I'll do it right there, and extra damage, and it starts the dot back over. So you keep that going, and then you can move over here and do the same thing. And it's really simple that way. But that's just a little way to boost your DPS. It's really not going to do all of your DPS, but I did 57k and I wasn't even really using any of my main abilities. So after that, you also want to switch your talent to either Holy Prism or Light's Hammer. If they're sitting still, Light's Hammer is better, but I still like to use Holy Prism because it's bursty. It's not gradual, and it seems better to me, just for the most part, on AoE fights, because most mobs aren't in a nice little pile for you to work with. So it's just nice to be able to do that. And they both heal, but I still like Holy Prism better. The way you like to start off fights is you can start off with a Holy Prism. Yeah, then you'd use Hammers of the Righteous up to 3 stacks with Judgments and Exorcisms, and then at that point you would use Divine Storm at least 3 holy power you have to have, but usually I like to try to get up to 5 before you start doing that, because then you can start using Divine Storms more than once. It's pretty easy that way. Make sure your Inquisition's up all the time, and that's pretty much it. I will show you what it looks like real quick. I'm going to do the same thing I did for single target, use everything I've got, and just see how high I go. Alright, so going in, Judgments, Holy Prism, the Exorcism. Now I'm going to sensor stack once I get my 5 up, so we'll see how that helps. And then you use your Divine Storm in place of Templar's Verdict on this add-on. And it's going to show Crusader Strikes, but use Hammer of the Righteous. So that's why I said AoE is not really helping for that. And now I switch to another target, get the sensor stacks up on them. I mean, it might take a few hits to do it, but it really will. See, I'm at 220 something. Okay, I was, and then hurry up and I lost it. I set to a little too long. It's about 15 seconds, so you just gotta make sure that you get the debuff back on really quickly. And then you can try to do it on a third target if you're feeling like you can do that. And then you do it there, and okay, you just wait for it. It's all about timing for the most part. It's just making sure that you get all of your abilities, because it's not always the easiest thing in the world to make sure that you're hitting them all. But once you get really good at it, your DPS goes up pretty good. So I got 151 out of that. If it were more than, I'd say 6 or 7 targets, you'd want to switch from using sensor stacking to Seal of Righteousness. Like fights like Tordos, what you'd want to do is use Truth for the when you're only fighting Tordos, and then when the bats come out, use Seal of Righteousness. You'd be surprised how much damage you can actually do. I actually have some logs up that I was ranked for Ret Paladins. It's like I was like 50 something for Ret Paladins at one point, but it probably dropped by now, but that's neither here nor there. That's it for AoE. It's really simple. You make sure you switch for 6 or more targets to Seal of Righteousness, and if you're using Seal of Truth to sensor stack, use Hammer of Wraths instead of Crusader Strike, and you use Divine Storm instead of Templar's Verdicts. Now, this is a small thing, but for 3 or fewer targets, you're still going to want to use Crusader Strike rather than Hammer of the Righteous, which might sound stupid, but that's just kind of how that works. But Hammer of the Righteous does put a weaken blows on the targets, so they reduce their physical damage dealt by 10%. So that actually can help to maybe throw one of those out initially, even if it's not an AoE fight, just to put that debuff on the boss or the mobs that you're fighting. So I hope that helps with the AoE rotation. People always say that AoE is crappy. It's just that you have to know how to play it correctly to be effective. Like, I've beaten Hunters, I've beaten Locks on AoE pulls, pretty big ones, and I mean, it's not that bad. It's just all a matter of how to play your class effectively. So I hope that helps, and I will go into a short bit about add-ons that might help you, and then I'll go into a conclusion. Now, I was supposed to go into add-ons, but I did forget to mention about the tier pieces. These are tier 15 pieces. That it's very important to kind of understand how these work. Some people will think they're boring, and they're not the greatest in terms of fun factor, but the damage abilities that you're going to get are actually better than you think they probably are. Now, like I said, for AoE, using the Mass Exorcism will put the 6% increased holy damage from your attacks for 6 seconds up, and with the Art of War procs that you'll get, more than likely, you can keep that up all the time. And that will lead to your 4-piece bonus, which is your Crusader Strikes have a 40% chance to make your next Templar's Verdict deal all holy damage. Now, good thing about holy damage is it bypasses armor. So, more damage on the boss means faster kills, meaning more loot, and you just get better and better. It keeps going. As long as you keep Inquisition up, and your Mastery is going to be probably getting a little bit more important because of this ability. Probably not as important as Haste, but it'll be a little bit more important even. That'll definitely increase the damage. Now I'm going to go quickly into add-ons and do this as fast as I can, because this can turn into a pretty long process because I have a lot of add-ons. Now, add-on control panel, if you just want to add add-ons on the fly, just clicking ones on, you can do that right here, and then you just reload UI. And this Ask Mr. Robot will save your gear and pretty much reload your UI, but then you can actually find a file on your computer, which Ask Mr. Robot website will tell you how to do it, and it'll tell you which gear that's the best for you to change and stuff like that. Auctionator, really not a big deal. Bartender for action bars, bigwigs, or DBM for your basically raid awareness. I like bigwigs because of the emphasizing is a little bit better. Carbonate is a really good map add-on. It does a lot more besides that, but that's what I usually use it for. I could use TomTom, but it's basically the same thing. CLC Ret, like I was talking about earlier, you can actually go into it and change your rotations in it. There's a legend with simple commands that you put in, like Holy Prism was not in there initially, so I added it to it with Light's Hammer and what is it, Execution sentence, yeah. So see, I could add Inquisition HPR. So I want to go ahead and do that as long as Inquisition is active. It's gonna automatically be up there along with these. So in these 3 orders, then these are your main abilities here, and these are just specialty things. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that. And now you go to cooldown to go, tells you the remaining amount of cooldown you have on something. Crap away gets rid of gray items. Decursive cleanses yourself a little more efficiently. Elcano buff bars I like to use because I don't like the standard ones. Farmhand is if you like to farm on Sunsong Ranch a lot, this is a little bit of a, I like to call must-have because it makes it a lot easier. Go-Go mount, you can randomly get on a mount. You can't do it when you're shape-shifted, but I use the period key and it'll change you into any random mount. Grid I like to use rather than the standard frames because they're just too clunky for me. GTFO, if you're standing in fire or something you shouldn't be, this will scream at you, please get out. It's a big alarm. I would definitely suggest at least trying it because there's some stuff that you might not even notice, like friendly fire type stuff, like splash damage. There's certain things that it catches that you wouldn't usually realize. Loggerhead is if you run logs, it automatically does it. Lose control if you have CC is on you. That's more of a PvP thing, but sometimes you get stunned and stuff and you don't see it. Scrolling battle text, I mean, it's pretty standard on that one. Log it is actually if you're in a transmog. If you like transmog stuff, it's really fun. Movable holy power bar is pretty self-explanatory. Move anything. If you just use the standard Blizzard UI, you literally can move anything in the game with this add-on. Let's see, O-Glow will make your bags glow for certain items. Purples will glow a little bit of a purple ring around them. It's not like a big thing, but Omni CC, if you have a cooldown, it will show it, like 20 seconds, 17. Really nice to have that actually. Postal, if you're into the mail and you want to open everything at once, it's nice. Pratt is a chat add-on. Quartz is a casting bar for all your target, focus, all that. Raid buff status, if you're an assist or a raid leader, this is definitely good to know who's failing on Flask and Feast and buffs. Reforginators like Ask Mr. Robot for in-game. If they update it, it's pretty decent, but sometimes they kind of screw you up. Shared media, none of that matters. SCADA is your damage meter, healing meters, stuff like that. I have a lot of different add-ons, as you can see, a lot of art type packs and stuff, because I sometimes like to change my UI up. Tidy plates for nameplates, and I add the threat plate module to that. Tip tack is basically your tooltips, customizable that way. You can add different stuff to it. It'll tell me like my spec and level, guild, all that good stuff. I mean, it probably does that already on the standard, but this way I can move it around. Titan panel, it's all the stuff at the bottom. You can customize it to show you where you're at, like how fast you're running around, like right here. How much money you have, all those type things. Wake spams, if you're interrupting in a raid, this tells in a raid chat that you've interrupted something, so you're not stacking interrupts on top of each other and wasting them. This way you can chain CC or chain stun things a little bit more efficiently. X-Pro I don't use for the raid frames, I use for the player frame and target and target or target. And that's pretty much it for add-ons. I went over the tier gear like I said I was going to do, and now I'm just going to go into a conclusion now. Alright, well this concludes my 5.2 Retribution Paladin guide. I hope you learned something from it, and if you liked it, subscribe to my channel. I'll try to do some guides for Holy Paladin. Try to do one for Arc and Frost Mages. I don't play Fire as much anymore, but they're all pretty good specs. I'm going to do Frost DK. I haven't leveled my Rogue and my Druid yet, but they're 85 still, but I can still play those. I might do a guide of those in due time once I level them up, but until then, only thing I can really ask is if you are looking for a raid group, Destiny and Stoica on the Winterhoof server is looking for some folks for their second 10-man group. So if you're interested or just want to get into a raid group and know how to push buttons and kill stuff, get some loot, and have some fun with some folks, so always you can look up Lucidity on the Winterhoof server, or you can go to stoica.guildlaunch.com, and I'll put more info at the end of the video. So I hope you enjoyed it, and take care of yourselves, and happy raiding. Now, as a little bonus, I was going to try to do a single kill on Progenitus, the first one. These are 92 rare. He does a pretty bad little knockback if you're standing in the circle, so we'll try it real quick, see if we can do it. If not, not a big deal. So, same thing we usually do. Seal of Truth, free fought, 10 for the service, as long as you stay out of that, it's pretty easy fight on this fight.
That's still recharging.
You self-heal pretty good too with the flash of lights. So.
That's still recharging.
I mean, it's not that hard to play your ret if you just let these correctly. Like any class, you just know what's going on. And CLC ret helps a lot too, so just staying out of stuff, not dying to stupid stuff, and you can get some things done pretty quick. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll do a few mass pulls, maybe just to add to it. Now, as a little bonus, I was going to try to do a single kill on Progenitus, the first one. These are 92 rare. He does a pretty bad little knockback if you're standing in the circle, so we'll try it real quick, see if we can do it. If not, not a big deal. So, same thing we usually do. Seal of Truth, free fought, 10 for the service, as long as you stay out of that, it's pretty easy fight on this fight.
That's still recharging.
You self-heal pretty good too with the flash of lights. So.
That's still recharging.
I mean, it's not that hard to play your ret if you just... Alright, now I said I was going to do some AoE pulls, so we're going to do some AoE pulls, see how many folks we can get going, and try to kill them all at once. I hope you enjoy it. Try to get as many together as you can. It can sometimes be kind of daunting. But if you do it right, and you self-heal, you use your little hands, your photos, your protection, it makes it way easier to do. See how big that flash of light heal is? It's done, and I did 257k. I don't know how many I just killed, but it must have been a good bit. Let's try to loot these folks. My bags are full, so not a huge deal. But I got most of them down pretty quick. But yeah, it's always good to know how to self-heal, knowing about your defensive cooldowns. I didn't even have to use a bubble or lay on hands, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Looks like 12. 12 on 1. That's not too bad, really. I mean, I didn't really have to do much. I mean, I popped all my major cooldowns, but you can see Divine Storm, Hand of Light, Hammer of Wrath are the main 3. Seal of Righteousness, that's why you want to use Seal of Righteousness for those type of big pulls. And the Exorcisms help a little bit, and the Guardian. So if I was switched on my Judgments with different targets, it would have done a little bit of extra damage. But that just shows you that Ret AoE is not as horrible as people think it is. It's just they have to know how to do it. I hope you like that. If you need more help with anything, just let me know and I'll be glad to help you with it.